I want to get to the LA wildfires for politics and policy reasons, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then obviously some impact about what's going on at Capitol Hill on the agenda. But I want to start with this Carter funeral because I'm watching this morning, and we do this morning meeting every morning with Mark Halperin and Dan Turrentine. We had some great guests on this morning. But, I was talking about it on the show that I love looking at it's like a red carpet for me. I love the people watching. And I'm watching some of the dynamics there. And I was saying to Mark Halperin prior, during that show that I wanted to see how Trump interacted with others. And it was funny because he's sitting there next to Obama. They had so the first row was President Biden and Mrs. Biden, and then Kamala Harris and Doug Emhoff. And then behind that were the former presidents in their order of presidency, right? So you had Clinton, and then obviously, I think, so Bush, and then Obama, and then anyway, they were in succession. And so Trump and Obama are sitting next to each other, and Obama's in stitches. And I'm like, these guys are like looking like their old college pals. Like, what did you, again, I don't want to belabor this point too much, but I thought there was something kind of fascinating about the people watching at the funeral.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I don't usually tune in for those kind of long state ceremonies where, it's going to be a lot of just the cameras, and then, you have to wait an extra 20 minutes, people just hanging around. But for this one, I was like, I got to see this. I got to see who they sit him next to. And I love, because I had a friend who said to me yesterday, I wonder if he should even go to this, talking about Trump. And I said, this is what's so great about Trump, is that Trump's like that friend you have that doesn't feel awkward about anything. Like you walk into a situation. I'm the type of person, I overthink everything. So I leave a party or I leave something and I say to my husband, I shouldn't have said that. That was not my best work. I made a fool of myself. And then you have people who are just, it doesn't even dawn on them. Trump is so confident. And I think it's important to him to be there to say, no, I'm a former president and I'm also a future president. Like, despite everything you guys did, I'm going to be back in the White House. That's important to him. And the dynamic that he's had with Barack Obama has been so, like, there are a lot of people, Sean, we saw him sit down with Biden during the peaceful transition, wink, wink. And they talked for a really long time. They were joking around. I do think that anger-wise, I think he has a special anger for Barack Obama. I think it all goes back to that joke about you'll never be president. But he's able to let that go and just kind of just laugh and talk to someone next to him. It's very fascinating. It's almost surreal to see all these people. And Mike Pence is there. It's very weird.
Larry, you were...
Yeah, listen, I think that there's a lot going on here. The fact that Trump is yucking it up with Obama tells you a lot. First of all, Trump is a funny guy, and he's fun to be around. I mean, I learned that from reading your book, Sean, The Briefing. He obviously is kind of a blast to be around, except when you're in the blast radius when he's not happy. The thing about Obama laughing at Trump, the best part of it is it really pisses off Democrats, because Obama was there a week before Election Day saying that he was a fascist, that he was a Klansman, that he was a white nationalist, and he said that the white supremacists at Charlottesville were very fine people, and now he's having a joke with them. So, was he full of crap back during the campaign, or now is all forgiven? And Trump's got to be enjoying this, because there are 3 one-term presidents there at the National Cathedral. 2 of them will never get a second term, Biden and, regrettably, the late Jimmy Carter. Donald Trump did something that none of them did. He ran again and he won. And it's got to be a bit of a victory lap for him.
Hey, I will say... Go ahead, Jen. I was just going to say, I think Grace is...
You're not allowed to speak, Sean. It's my turn.
No. As Grace was speaking, though, I was like, I'm identifying with exactly what Grace is saying, and I love the way she framed that. But, Jen, I'm sorry.
No, listen, all great points there made by both of you. And I would just add, you think back to right after the election and even leading up to it, how there was a lot of speculation. Is Joe Biden, is Jill Biden voting for Donald Trump? And you have to wonder how many other people in that cathedral also maybe were not so disappointed that President Trump won, that maybe expressed disappointment publicly, but are feeling pretty good that Kamala Harris is not in the White House. So that's interesting. But great points there about President Trump being in any crowd, being confident. We've seen him with world leaders and the confidence he expresses, and others that seem like these dictators that get in the room with him and obviously are basically bowing down to him. So it speaks volumes about what's ahead, as well as we look to him joining us back here in Washington in just several days.
Yeah, I want to pick up on a couple points and then we'll move on, because I think one, what Jen said is so true. There's a reason Donald Trump loves to be in the room with somebody, because he can win him over. So he always wants it. And that's right. I mean, we saw it today that these guys, you can't help but like joke around with him. And he's just a good person to be in the room with, and he can disarm anybody. And that's why he always, the media freaks out. Why does he want to meet with Putin? Why does he want to? Because he knows he can disarm them and get a good deal. And that, I think what Jen said is spot on. What Grace was talking about exactly, right? I mean, this is so apropos, but I thought that the other takeaways for me is, as I mentioned, Obama and him yucking it up, to Larry's point. Like, it was like, dude, nothing, we're all good, right? We're laughing. Trump shaking Mike Pence's hand. It was like, I think Pence was sort of like, I should have kept quiet. I should have kept quiet. I'm not, but I think he realizes, holy smokes, like, you know, I'd rather be there for season 2 than season 1. But then also, I will tell you this. When Kamala Harris got seated, and then Jill and Joe Biden walked in, and obviously, like, the seating, the protocol is all like very, very well orchestrated. And so you had president and their spouse, right? So Biden, and then First Lady Jill Biden, and then Kamala Harris. When Jill Biden sits down, it is to Grace's point a moment ago, like, it is so awkward. Kamala Harris tries to lean over, like, "Hey, girl," and it was like Ice Queen City. It was like,
I can't wait for the bad lip reading on this. It's going to be so good.
How crazy is that it's more awkward between Jill and Kamala than it is between Barack Obama and Donald Trump? Like, that just shows you his ability to win people over.
Jill Biden would have rather traded places with President Carter than sit next to Kamala Harris at that moment. And as great as it is to see Obama yucking it up with Trump, Trump should just check his back for the knife, because Obama was, orchestrating the very wonderful, peaceful transition when Trump won in 2016. And all the while he was planning with James Comey and John Brennan and the entire cabal till it hatched the Russian collusion investigation that sort of handcuffed the first year of that presidency. So
listen, Larry,
I don't buy any of the good cheer coming from Barack Obama.
We know the knives are out. We know there's so much planning here in this swamp of a town for all that they're going to do, and in terms of going after Trump with his day one orders. They've been planning it for months now, anticipating this moment. So, buckle up, definitely.
So, by the way, I want to move on, but let's just sum this up. Joe Biden can't talk to Kamala Harris. Obama's yucking it up with Trump. Biden doesn't want to talk to Obama. I mean, this is like literally, I think there should be a producer that walks out and says, look, guys, we could do season 1 right now. Because that, to me, is like the perfect house for like one of those reality shows. But the dynamics were so amazing. But Trump's the guy yucking it up with everybody. Barack won't talk to Biden. Mrs. Biden won't talk to Kamala. Bill Clinton's like sitting on the corner, like, I'll talk to anybody. And George W. Bush was like having a blast. But it was so funny to watch. It was like an episode out of like a high school musical. All right, let's move on to some serious stuff, because I want to talk about LA wildfires and then sort of the agenda that Jen mentioned. Larry, I know you were out. You've been out west a bunch in terms of your career and stuff. And look, I just say this at the beginning. I've gotten texts from friends. I've seen videos. Outside of losing a loved one, I can't possibly fathom watching everything that you have built and love and own. And I don't mean like material things like televisions, right? I mean, but like, I have family heirlooms, a family Bible. I've got military awards. I've got a Medal of Honor in my house from my great-grandfather. I mean, like, I couldn't imagine watching all that burn to the ground that quickly the way they have. And so my thoughts and prayers are out to everyone. I know that but I do think that it's fair to discuss the policies and the politics that have led to this. Because I think if the shoe was on the other foot, they'd be like, Donald Trump's to blame for all of this. The governors are Republicans. He's horrible. And Karen Bass, I was blown away, Larry, because I'm watching all these media shows, right? I flip around every day. It's an addiction. And they're all talking about this, and no one's willing to say, yes, Karen Bass cut the budget of the LA Fire Department by $17.5 million. Why is that so difficult?
I don't know. It's fundamental. You're so right. And somehow all of these news anchors couldn't find their way to Western North Carolina when the hurricane hit right before the election, because we know that was going to make the Biden-Harris response look bad. But boy, they all tripped over themselves to be seen in front of these burning buildings in California, yet they're missing the biggest story. And that is it. The biggest story is the failed policies of one-party rule in that state. It's tragic. I have friends who have lost their homes, who live in Southern California. Thankfully, my children and my ex-wife, they're safe. They live in a different part of the county. But this is god awful, and it is absolutely directly related to the horrible policies. Karen Bass is Exhibit A. Not only the cutting of the LA Fire Department budget, but also, part of the money that would have gone to the fire department, they had to resend to the police department because they defunded the police to take a knee to the Black Lives Matters protesters several years ago. The entire place is a basket case. Gavin Newsom, because of his forestry policies and his water policies, has crippled the state. And it's not like this doesn't happen every several years, Sean. They could have fixed this problem, but they don't need to because they don't answer to a political opponent and they don't answer to a media. And for some reason, all of the other members of the media and the anchors, they say, oh, it would be inappropriate to politicize this right now. Well, that never stops them when there's a Republican in close proximity to a natural disaster. So the double standard is palpable and it's disgusting.
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead, Jen. I was going to say, to me, it's the politics and the policies.
Yeah, and honestly, though, why do we act surprised anymore? I hate to say that, and certainly first I will say our prayers are with those in Southern California. Your heart breaks watching that footage, hearing these stories come out. So many people impacted from middle America to multimillionaire celebrities, and we're hearing all those stories come out. But again, you have to look back and say these people vote for these leaders, these elected officials, these Democrat officials. They keep voting for the same thing. They complain that things aren't the way they should be in California. They're not happy. The quality of life is not where it should be. But they keep voting for this. And they keep expecting that, if a mayor can't run a city in good times, well, how are they going to respond to a crisis? We saw this in places like New Orleans, obviously much different scenario, but a lot of criticism toward the mayor there for how things were conducted in New Year's Eve in terms of having barricades and so forth. You look at people like Lori Lightfoot in Chicago. You can name a lot of these blue city mayors that have not been able to lead in times of crisis, and people are then wondering why. And of course, we see the tragedy that results afterwards.
Grace, Sarah Foster is a Democrat. She's the daughter of David Foster, the very talented musical producer. She is an actress. She's a very successful podcaster. She tweeted this out. We pay the highest taxes in California. Our fire hydrants are empty. I mean, there's literally the DEI water hire person is doing a press conference about why they can't get water. Our vegetation was overgrown, brush not cleared. Our reservoirs were emptied by our governor because tribal leaders wanted to save fish. Our fire department budget was cut by our mayor, but thank God drug addicts are getting their drug kits. Mayor of LA, that's Karen Bass, at Gavin Newsom, resigned. Your far left policies have ruined our state and also our party. She's a Democrat, a very prominent Democrat with a big megaphone. She's one of the very few people that is willing to speak the truth right now, that these policies, not the politics, these policies, cutting the budget, lack of vegetation, allowing the growth and all this stuff. And like, as Larry pointed out, Grace, this isn't like some new thing. Wildfires are a big deal in California.
Yeah, I heard Rick Caruso, who ran against Karen Bass in 2022 to be mayor. And unfortunately, he lost. And he had a lot of backing from those big celebrities that you mentioned. I don't know if that helps or hurts you at this point in politics. But something he said that really stood out to me, he said, what's predictable is preventable. And I thought that is such a great point. Like, if you know that you have the winds are going to be this high, we haven't cleared out the brush, we need water in the reservoirs, and you don't take the correct actions, and then instead, as the mayor, you decide, I'm going to go to the inauguration in Ghana, I'm not even going to be on the continent, it's a horrible look. And I think to try to redirect it to anyone else to blame, and I saw a little bit of that from Newsom where he said, this is it's got to go to the local folks, they've got to let you know. No, the buck stops with you. You're the governor. And, we've all been so careful to say, listen, we don't want to make it political, but I do think there's a big difference. And I have seen a lot of Republicans being particularly sensitive to this, to say, these are Americans. These are the people in California deserve our prayers. They deserve our support. The firefighters, all the first responders are doing an amazing job. No one is cheering this on. No one is blaming those people who are watching their homes be destroyed. That's not how we are. I don't tend to think as a party. We don't look at this and say, see, this is what you get. But at the same time, to be able to say, these politicians, they can take blame for this. That's their job. Their job is not just, to cut ribbons and get awards. Their job is to be responsible when something goes wrong. And it's a very important distinction that I think Republicans make, to say, I'm praying for the people there. I feel terrible for them, but I want these officials to be held responsible.
I just like to say, as a former Californian, California is a weird state. And, the old joke about, Mussolini was a fascist, but he got the trains running on time. I think that there's a difference between Westerners and Easterners and how they view the role of government. In California, they very rarely vote for people based on whether they can competently run the government. I know that seems weird, but the fact that this is a government failure, I don't know if it's going to register on election day. They vote based on ideas, sadly. And this last mayoral election between Caruso and Bass was running on racial identity politics, Black Lives Matter, and the fact that she'd be the first Black woman mayor. And that trumped the problems with homelessness, the problems with inefficient government, and it trumped the fact that Caruso was running to refund the police. Ultimately, Bass refunded the police as well. Newsom is the same animal. It's okay that he's an incompetent governor and everything in the state is falling apart. But boy, oh boy, he made sure that women in that state can go ahead and kill their babies before they're born. In Californians, they trump that. That's more important. People ask me, when will Republicans be in charge of California again? And my only answer is when things get so damn bad that they're willing to vote for a Republican. That might be where we are right now.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we are.
It's scary to think, Larry, what kind of a tragedy is it going to be the next great earthquake for California? Obviously, they face a lot of potential natural disasters there. What is it going to take for people to actually wake up and say, we're going to vote for change? I mean, you look at how Ron DeSantis is handled. Obviously, they know Florida is going to be getting hurricanes. They have such a great plan in place. They can be hit twice in a matter of a couple of weeks and have things cleared out, ready to go. People know where they can go to get assistance, and there's so much great communication. And then you look at a state like California and you say, why does it have to be that way? It doesn't until people wake up.
The dark horse here could be Nicole Shanahan, the woman who was the running mate for RFK Jr. before he dropped out of the race. She's been kind of red-pilled, but she's still kind of a woman of the left, sensibility-wise. She's got funds, and she could very easily challenge here as a very independent-minded type Republican and make some noise in the state of California. Keep an eye on her.
I will say just one quick note that we should keep receipts on all of this. It's early on in this, incoming administration here, but we know who's going to be looking at the Oval Office when 2028 rolls around.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.